one of the most basic radical expressions is a square root. So here we have negative square root of 81. So we can sort of treat a square root or a radical just like a variable. So if we had a negative in the front, it's like we're multiplying -1 times the square root of 81. Now when we're taking the square root of a number, we're really trying to ask ourselves, what squared equals this number in here, the radicand? What squared equals 81? We can either think about it if we know our perfect squares, or we can take our calculator and use our square root button. Here we know that the square root of 81 is 9, because 9 times 9 is 81. So I'm just going to take that and replace it with a 9. And because we had a negative up front, to simplify this, this becomes -9. Now, in addition to having a square root, right, asking ourselves what squared equals 81, we also have a cube root here. This number in the front is called an index number, and typically when we deal with a square root, because it's called a square root, it's implied that we have an invisible 2 up there. So this is called a cube root because we have an index of 3. So here we're saying what cubed equals 8. That's what we're asking ourselves when we're dealing with a cube root function. We can go ahead and think about that, or again, we could use our calculator. If you have a scientific or a graphing calculator, you can use a cube root button. Or if you just have a 4-function calculator, you can just start at 1 and say 1 times 1 times 1 equals. Nope, that's not it. 2 times 2 times 2 equals. Hey, that's it. Right? You can just use process of elimination for that. So here, the cube root of 8 is 2. That's just a plain old 2. And my buzzer keeps on going off. This third example has an index of 4. So that means we call it a fourth root. And a fourth root means what to the 4th power equals 81. Again, we could think about it, or we can use our calculator. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1, 4 times, equals 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Check that, right? Or we could use our scientific or graphing calculator to literally take the 4th root. And we'll go over how to do that in class. I know that the 4th root of 81 is 3. And again, we have a negative in front, so this is like negative times the 4th root of 81, which is like -1 times 3, which here gives us a value of -3. So using a 4-function calculator for this is not hard. It might just take a little bit of time, but you notice, depending on whether you have a cube root or a 4th root, you can even have a 5th root or a 6th root or a 7th root. I mean, these numbers get very, very large very, very quickly, so it's not, too bad.